Hey everybody, and welcome to another video from the Electronic Armory. In the last video, we set up our colliders in Blender so that they automatically import into Unreal. In this video, we're going to show you how to create additional level pieces so that they snap together so that our player can choose whether they want to go straight, left, or right to enhance our maze in additional directions. So let's get started. Alright, so if you remember from our previous video, we set up our colliders here. And so what we want to do is be able to create another piece that goes in this direction and then also allows them to make a left-hand turn or right-hand turn. We also want to set up maybe an additional piece so that we can have the player go straight, and that would be like a four-way a level piece here. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how to create that first piece where it goes left or right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate our hallway piece here, and just the hallway piece. So let's just select that straight hallway. And I'm going to hit Shift D and hold down the Control key. And I'm going to pull it out to about there so that it snaps right in line with this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and actually hide these hallway pieces by just clicking and dragging down and then releasing, and that will hide those so that we have just a better view of our hallway. So we're going to want to convert this hallway piece into a three-way, as I mentioned, and I'm going to actually cut the hallway down this way so that we just have one piece here, and then split it off and make it go that way as well as on the other side. So in order to do that, I'm going to actually keep this pillar. I'm going to actually do it on this side since this is our geometry. So I'm going to keep this pillar, but again, I'm going to select everything that's on this side of the mesh. And I'm going to hit G and then Y and then just snap it back to 1. And just to make sure that the edge piece is indeed on this final piece, we can just go ahead and select this this vertex to see indeed it is 0, 0, which just means it's this is the origin here, so that's why it's 0, 0. Okay, so we have that going for us, and then what we want to do is be able to split it off this way. And there's a couple ways that we can do that. But the easiest is probably just going to have this rotate around this way here and go that way. However, we want to make sure that our pivot point is directly on this line so that everything snaps over there. So let's go ahead and try to do that. Get rid of my grease pencil here. And we're just going to go ahead and Alt select until we grab that edge. And let's see, so we don't have our pillar set up on that side, but let's see, we do have that there. I'm not going to want to select some of this geometry. That should be okay right there. So I'm going to hit the extrude key to extrude this out, constrain it to Y. And that's I want it to snap, so I'm actually going to go in the top-down view by hitting the 7 key. So once we have that, it's already extruded. Let me just go ahead and extrude this out by 1, 2, so 20 centimeters. And next, we want to rotate it around about 45 so that it creates a nice kind of angle there. And I'm not sure if I pulled it out far enough, but let's go ahead and try it. And again, we're going to want to rotate it around this point here. So I'm going to deselect everything, select this point, hit Shift S, cursor to selected. That'll put that point there. And then Alt select that edge again. And it didn't look like it pulled out that one face for some reason. So that's okay, we'll just go ahead and select this, select that, and then hit F to create that face. And that way we can surely have our edge loop there. So I select off, edge select by Alt clicking, Alt selecting, so that we have this one. Let's just go ahead and try this. I am going to go into top by hitting 7, and then our pivot point, let's set up our pivot point to not be around the median point of those vertices, but around the 3D cursor. And I am going to rotate this around the Z, so R and then Z, and then hitting 45. And yeah, I didn't move it out far enough. However, let's just go ahead and hit that G, and yeah, that's not going to work. So our pivot point actually maybe should be here. So select that point. Shift S to selected, hit undo, and now if we rotate this to 45 and click, okay, that's looking a little bit better. And then we're going to extrude. Actually, I'm going to undo that real quick because I forgot to extrude another piece before doing this. So extrude and snap it up 2. And then I'll just show you why I'm doing that in a second. So R, Z, 45, and hit the negative key to move it out that way. And then Alt select these guys. It looks like we, oops. Yep, so Alt select those guys, just make sure that's selected, 7, and then rotate this, but we're going to rotate it around this point. So select that one, and then Shift S to put the cursor there. Alt select that again, hit 7, rotate Z and 45 again, but hit the negative key. And maybe that's a little bit too far. So let me hit 7. And you can see that it's not quite snapping up against that edge, but that's okay. We're going to actually put it probably along this line. So G, X, and select it, hit Control and move it back. But you also notice that instead of moving it to the grid line, it just moved it back 10 centimeters from where it was. So to make sure that it always moves along the grid, you can select this button down here to always be an absolute on the grid snap. And so now if we hit G, X, and then hold down Control, it will snap to that actual grid line. And we're going to move it right about there. So now we have a semi, yeah, it's not perfect, but it will satisfy our needs. Let me go into 7, and maybe we do want to move it out on the X by, no, I think that's okay for right now. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can get precise with that if you want. Okay, so now that we have that edge piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it out until right about here to this grid line. So E to extrude, X to keep it along the X-axis, and then Control, and just snap it right there. Perfect. Okay, so now we start having our three-way piece going. And that's looking pretty good. You know, I might want to clean this up, maybe add some more geometry so that it's a little bit more round. Doesn't matter at this point, but what we do want to do is actually hook up this floor so that we're not, let me hit 7 so you can see what's going on here. I don't have a floor here, which I really need, of course. And so what we want to do is extend this floor, but we also want to make sure that we extend the floor to here, and then to here, and then finally to this piece, and then bring it out to here first, and then we can control to pull it out as normal. So let me just show you what that looks like. I'm just going to go back into top-down view, and maybe just kind of angle it right there. Now what I could do is extend this out such as this by hitting, just making sure those vertex does not look like I have the vertice. That edge should be, let me just pivot around here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is actually not connected to this. So if I select that and then that, this whole edge should line up. That's what I was looking at there. So what I'm going to do is actually bring this out by hitting E and then Y and just pulling it out a little bit to right about, let's say there, because I want to actually merge it. Well, let's see, I don't want to merge it because it's not currently merged with that for some reason. That's going to probably give us some issues, but that's okay for right now. We're just going to get this approximately correct. So what I do want to do is pull this out to be right about here. So let me go ahead and scale this out. Whoops, I guess we already had extrude on. Let me undo that. So I'm going to select this one and bring it out to the X and just snap it right about there. And then I just constraint that on the X. And let's see. Okay, now with those two selected, I am going to leave this as I'm going to leave this geometry here and just hit extrude and then Y to lock it on the floor. And we're going to have another hallway that locks up to right about, let's see, we also wanted to make the same width. So let's see, we have this as 6 wide minus a little bit here. So we want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. Okay, and then this will be where our wall goes here. And then we'll also want another edge piece here, another edge piece there. However, I don't want to have to duplicate this work that I've done. Plus, I have to go back and do a little bit more work back here because our floor actually doesn't match up with this. And so when we go ahead and add a piece here, we're expecting this width to be 6, and it's not 6. It's basically 5. Well, it's, it basically goes until here, and then this should be the point where it goes into 6. Anyway, we'll fix that in a second. But again, I don't want to have to duplicate that at this moment. So I'm going to pull this back to 3. So GY and then 3, and then you guessed it, we're going to go to our modifier. And for this piece, because we duplicated our hallway, it kept that mirror modifier, as you can see on this side. But we also want to mirror it on the y-axis. And when we do that, you can see it mirrors it, but it mirrors it on this side here because our origin is right there, and it's going to mirror it on this side. We want to mirror it on this side, so we have to set our origin right there on that selected vertex. So let's go ahead and select that vertex. And the easiest way to do that, so once we have that vertex selected, is do Shift S, cursor to selected. That'll put our 3D cursor there. You can see that we're using our 3D cursor quite a bit now. Get out of edit mode and into object mode by hitting tab. Set origin on this little transform window menu here, and we're going to set origin to 3D cursor. If you want to try to memorize that shortcut keyboard, you can. We use it quite a bit. And once we do that, by setting the origin, it moves our mirror to that origin. Now we're mirroring on the Y, and you can see kind of how beautiful that four-way piece is just by doing one section here, mirroring it along the X and mirroring it along the Y. All right, so again, if we take this object, let's duplicate it, bring it in over here, and I'm going to hit Shift Z to make sure that it stays on this plane, and snap it right there. Rotate on Z. Actually, our rotation point is at that 3D cursor. I'm going to change it back to median point, which is the origin there. Rotate it on Z. And holding down the control key to snap it, you can see that our pillars, our end caps, don't actually line up. So that's a problem that we can easily fix. If you go select our four-way piece here, go into edit mode by hitting tab, we're going to simply just line this, this edge up. So I'm going to go in the top-down view by hitting 7 and select all of these pieces. And we're going to hit G, Y, and just move those back, and those might not move. Those might not be. Let me hit escape because it looks like I also select this. I'm going to hit box select Shift to unselect that. Just easier that way for me. And let me zoom in here a little bit. All right, so our issue, it looks like we do have this alignment everything is snapped, so this alignment should be okay. The problem is we have a lot of different other pieces or vertices selected that are not snapped to our grid, and so that's going to be our issue, but let's just get it approximate and we will fix it later. So G, Y, and then snap this down, and let's just leave it there. Okay, so we have this corner not lining up, so let me go into top-down mode again, and gonna hit A, box select everything above this line. That should be okay. I don't want to select this curve because I think that's best to be, since that's kind of connected down here, it's best to leave that to this selection. So G and then Y, hold down Control, and we're just going to snap that there. And then finally, we're going to unselect that, but then make sure that we know what was unselected. Box select, and don't forget these pieces over here. Actually, we don't want to select these, so holding down Shift will unselect those. And we're going to hit GY and snap that right there. It didn't look like it was, it looks like it's a little bit off, but if we unselect it and go there, it's actually, it does look like it is off, which is interesting. So let me go ahead and 7, tab, and again, just make sure all these line up. So box select this, make sure we have all those edges, and we actually want to select that down there. 7, G, Y, and Control, and just tap that there. Box select this. I'm going to actually unselect that. Just make sure those are there. GY. Oops, if we go into 7, that'll give us the increment that we want. GY, and just move that there. So that does look like it's lined up. Okay, and really we just have to worry about these edges, so we don't have to worry too much about the inner geometry. And GY, oops, let's go in this top down mode. GY, hold down Control, and that automatically snaps, and click. And there we go. Okay, so hopefully the rest of everything else is, if we unselect that, nope, that face, okay, I forgot that one. Select this one, and top down, GY. Okay, so I see that this is not snapped to the grid. Yeah, because we beveled that and we didn't really bevel it appropriately. So what I'm going to have to do is go into this object over here on the right, and I want to line this up. So just make sure that one is here. Okay, so we're actually rotated this object around, and so if I move it left and right, you can see, let's see, actually go into top-down mode. Left and right, you can see that that's actually the y-axis because we rotated it. And so I'm going to grab this y-axis. It does, no, actually, I'm sorry. I want it in the y-axis. Here, I want that value, and that's the x value. But again, this is the y value here, but because we rotated it, it's the x value. So I'm just going to grab this number here. It is a little awkward. So copy this. I'm going to hit tab to get out of, well, hit escape first if you're selected in there. Tab to get out of object mode. Select this one. Go into tab view, and these two, I want to change those x values to that. And oops, okay. Or maybe it is the y. Yes, it's the y. Sorry, we have to translate that from the x to y. Okay, so make sure you do have the negative sign. Hit enter, and that should be exactly square on. That was the issue I was having. Okay, so sorry about that. And we're going to get rid of our grease pencil. Now, if we get out of edit mode, okay, we do have one more issue here with this wall. So we're going to select this guy, and I do believe that that is aligned. Yeah, for some reason it's just our wall there. And top-down mode, GX. Let's see, move it in the Y, G, Y, control. And actually I want to move these as well because that's part of the whole entire wall. We don't want to skew the wall at all. It does look like I have some overlap there. We'll get rid of in a second. GY control, that'll snap that up. And that's still not matching up exactly. It's matching up the bottom. Oh, okay. So we have a little issue here. I think I selected the wrong, yeah, I selected the wrong piece here. It does look like we have multiple vertices occupying the same space. So to fix that, we highlight everything or select everything and then go down here to remove, and we're going to remove doubles. And once we do that, you can see up in the top it says remove 7 vertices. Apparently we had 7 vertices that were on top of each other. That might have been from an errant extrude that we didn't start moving. We had extruded it, but we didn't actually move it. And so you'll get those pixels or those vertices the same there. All right, so now when we go ahead and move that, that's just one vertice there. Okay, so now when we select this one and this one and this one to move it on the Y, so GY, snap that up. Now everything is looking good except our overlap on this floor. It's really best to merge that floor with this wall, but in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is, let's see, we can just, I don't know, Shift Z to keep it on that plane and move it right about there. Yeah, that's probably not the best geometry, and I'd fix that later. However, again, in the interest of time, that's going to make it look okay. Select, let's see, I'm going to Shift Select so nothing is selected or hit A. And that's looking pretty good there. Again, I don't want to duplicate this, so I'm going to actually go ahead and delete that now that we have everything lined up. And this is our original piece. We don't want to move that. And that's looking pretty good. I'm going to remove these guys because we don't need them. Okay, now if I exported this as is, if I selected this and moved it as is, it would import into Unreal, not at this being 0, 0, but actually the origin, which I believe is somewhere right around here. If we hit Shift S, cursor to center, it will import it way off here. And so if we rotated it in Unreal, it would rotate just like this, which would be kind of obnoxious to try to snap things up. So what we really need to do is move its origin, which is its center. If we select its pivot point, the median here, and I rotate it around here, this is really how we want to rotate it in Unreal, okay? So to do that, we need to make sure that this little dot here, or whatever the center of our mesh is, hopefully it is the same, needs to be at this 3D cursor. So once this 3D cursor is at the center, again, Shift S, cursor to center, we can then select our 4-way piece and then do Shift S and instead do selection to cursor. And that will move it right in the center for export. But now it's getting really messy where now we have these pieces on top of each other. It's going to be really hard to determine which piece is which, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is show you how to set up different layers that we're going to put each piece onto. Because if you remember, this piece, the center piece, the straight piece, has colliders attached to it that once we make those visible again, if we just click and drag our mouse down and release, this is going to get really messy. And of course, we're going to have colliders on this as well. So let's go ahead, and once we have all those hallway pieces selected, I am going to actually what we're going to do is move just this piece, this 4-way hallway piece, so make sure this is the only thing that's selected. And I'm going to rename this, by the way, before I forget. This is going to be called, let's call it hallway _ 4-way. Hit enter. That's still selected. And we're going to hit the M key. That's going to bring up a move to layer window. And so if you notice, this one is selected, which corresponds to our layering little widget down here, you can see that this is the only layer that has objects on it. We're going to move it to this layer as well, and you could organize this however you want. But we're going to move it to the next layer. Now it's moved to the next layer, but we only have one layer visible, which is this one. If we click on this, we can see that it is this layer, so we can organize our pieces that way, and it's very, very convenient. But if for some reason we wanted to select everything at once, we can hold down Shift and select multiple layers at the same time, or we can go onto a third layer and start modeling this piece. Okay, so that's a little bit of layer maintenance and how to get stuff onto different layers. If we wanted to move it back, we could hit M and then select the layer that we move it back to. Okay, so we do have this 4-piece on its own layer. What I'm going to do is speed up the video so you don't have to watch me add the colliders, but you can just see how I do it really quickly. If you want to see that, watch the previous video. But again, I'm going to speed this up, so I'll see you at the end. Okay, so we've set up all of our colliders for the floor, these 4 pillars here, and we've named them 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again with the UCX underscore prefix to it. And now what we're going to do is actually what I want to do is, since I set this floor 5 centimeters above our plane, which is not very much, I want to move these up 5 centimeters because we don't want those colliders to overlap. It's just generally not good practice. And so I'm going to select all of these. And actually, I'm going to deselect everything and then select them again just to make sure that those are the only things that are selected. I'm not sure that so there's pillars underneath for the hallway. I'm going to actually hit this arrow key to make sure that it is not selectable, and for the 4-way hallway as well, A, and then again R pillars, and again everything looks like, oh, and no, I don't want to move the floor. Okay, so yeah, just make sure that those 4 pillars are selected, and then we're going to move it up in the Z direction by 0.05 meters, so 5 centimeters. Hit enter, and it just looked like that one. Just the active one moved up, which is not what we wanted. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do this real quick. 0.05, 0.05, and 0.05. Okay, so sorry about that. We have now these colliders are not intersecting with each other, and we're ready for export. So I'm going to hit A, B, box select everything, and I did not select the hallway 4-way because I turned that off. So A, box select again, just make sure everything is selected, and then we're ready. So I'm going to save it before we do that. Pull this into Unreal, FBX, make sure our Unreal settings are enabled, and instead of overwriting this level straight, this is going to be called level hyphen 4-way. Cool, and just going to save it again, just because I like to save often. And here is our level, and so now we're able to allow our player to go into a different direction. So let's escape to get out of that. And let's see, we're going to go down to import, make sure we're in our level pieces folder before we import this level straight. And now we didn't do any unwrapping for our 4-way, but that's okay. I'll do that off a video, and you guys can just watch the other video and how we end up doing that. And if you have any questions for that, just leave them in the comments below. Okay, so once we have that 4-way piece in here, Let's go away and add that. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, drag it in there. It did not come in where I wanted it, but that's okay. I'm just gonna drag it out here, drag it down until it snaps there. And let's set up our snapping. Okay, perfect. So now we have the ability to, I'm gonna alt drag that out here, and I'll drag this back, hit E to rotate this that way, W, drag it there, Alt, drag there, gonna grab this piece, Alt, drag, and I'm just going to Alt drag these pieces around. So this is a pretty easy way to allow our player to make decisions about where he or she is going to go. So let me just finish this up. Just drag it out so we have enough. And the reason I made these hallway pieces smaller is it gives us more flexibility. Yes, we have to recreate these over and over and over again, but what we can do is Shift select a whole bunch of them and Alt select and drag that out. Apparently I missed one here, so just drag that out there. And you get the idea. Maybe we even take this piece here and Alt drag it here. So again, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and save this. If anything happens, we're going to drag our player just a little bit here, hit play, and now we have the ability to run around and make decisions of our maze. And of course, you want to go ahead and build out this level so that it's challenging for the player. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about game level design and some of the things that you might want to consider while designing your game. And also, once we design that game level, bringing that into Unreal so that we can actually lay our pieces down on top of that plan. It makes it really, really easy to create something like a maze. So I hope you found this video useful. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.